for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby, they don't want you to see, but everybody's out to Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That trade season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my old flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on to the hearse. Party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
I just want to live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Hi, everybody out there. Happy Wednesday to you. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday. And, you know, before I even throw it over to my co-host, Big O, I just got to send a special shout out to Build 206 for continuing to send the gifts. You guys are amazing. And this is one shirt that I'm going to cherish for sure. Appreciate you guys so much out there. But you guys know we do this as a duo. Got to bring in my guy, Big O. What up, Big O?
Hey, Trey Holiday, what's up? How are you? Happy Wednesday to you.
Yeah, happy Wednesday, my friend. Doing all right, doing well. How about you?
Me, I'm okay. You know what I'm saying? I only laugh because it's like it's a lot going on, but you know, it's only so much we can do.
That's right.
There it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again to welcome you to the Morning Update Show and remind you, right now is the perfect opportunity to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people who you feel benefit from culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. I want to give a big shout out to our partners, South Seattle Emerald, and also KBCS 91.3. We were on there this morning. They played our interview, and they also had journalist Georgia Fort was on with Davey D.
Oh, wow.
Yo, and the music on KBC, I was surprised. these guys just going hard over here.
Hey, they was
So,
turning up. Love
yeah,
it.
definitely big shout out to KBCS 91.3. What we got here? A few other things. Want to remind you that, of course, you can catch the morning update show as well as our other shows like Clapback Culture, The Rewind with Besa, and Chats with Trey on our podcast platform or anywhere that you guys consume podcast content. So whether it's iTunes or Google or Spotify or anywhere else, this is SoundCloud that you see right there on your screen. You can always catch episodes of the Morning Update Show and all of our Converge media content right there.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and so one or two more things here is actually this just came over from the mayor's office, and we're so used to saying like, yeah, just make an appointment, go get a vaccination and everything else. Everything's going to be changing here. You can go ahead and put this up. It's in your overlays. After more than 76% of Seattleites begin vaccination process, Mayor Durkin announces that the city's fixed vaccination sites will end operations in June while continuing mobile and pop-ups. And so basically what they're saying, 76% of the city has started the process. And so these fixed sites that we've known, these super sites here, they're going to be closing most of them the second week of June. They're going to be focusing on pop-ups, and it looks like, so Lumenfield, Rainier Beach, and West Seattle sites will continue to administer first doses until their final days of operation. Yeah. Man, I mean, these guys they've been pumping the vaccination though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so our messaging, we'll have it all more put together for you tomorrow. This just came out at 11 a.m., which is just 5 or 6 minutes ago, with the mayor here. But basically the fixed vaccination sites, they're going to transition out. They're going to go to pop-ups, but 76% of the population of what they're saying here has began the vaccination process.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a strong effort. I mean, we've been seeing it throughout the city. Really, again, I think one of the ways that Washington and Seattle in particular is really trying to lead is by ensuring that people had no barriers to getting the vaccination, whether they, for all of those who wanted, that it was available to them. So to hear, 76%, that's a pretty high number. And I'm sure it's tracking really high across when you look at national numbers. So, it makes sense.
All right, good stuff right there. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to take a second and help to welcome our newest team members here. We'll call them our squad. Look at this photo courtesy of Jake Grav brought. So from left to right there, we've got Ike Everard, and Ike is a student there at Arizona State University. In the middle is Ibrahim Omar, who's over at Seattle University. And to the right, that's Cuddy. Curtis Delgado, actually a graduate of O'Day High School and a graduate of Hampton University. And Curtis is here as a director and producer. So, you know what I'm saying? You guys out there in the audience, in the comments, go ahead and welcome our newest team members.
I love it, man. They are really showing up and showing out, to be honest. So, kudos to you guys. You guys are already just immediately family members. I love you.
I like that, immediately.
Yeah,
yep.
Immediately.
So, I hopped on my Twitter machine yesterday. I got my Twitter machine off the shelf, and I hopped on my Twitter machine yesterday. And because, I thought, I did a lot of interviews when we talk about 1 year anniversary of George Floyd. And it's somehow, I mean, I could just talk about Seattle, but I'm sure it's similar nationwide, is that people think that like all the Black people's issues is tied to police. And so, if we're like, yeah, it's a year later, we've done this and that, especially in our state, because you talk about, Islay has passed a lot of legislation. There's been all kinds of different things that people think that it's like that's our issues, and it's like, yeah, well, that's one, clearly police and relationships between Black community. But man, 1 year ago, before George Floyd's untimely murder, the economic the income gap in Seattle, we have been talking about that for one of our first days on air. It still remains. Home ownership is continuously a decline. Gentrification on the rise, the education gap. Let me put this tweet up though. So tweeted this out yesterday, and it really caught on. Seattle, as we remember, let's not forget the big three. Remember, we've been talking about the big three for almost 3 years, Treyana.
Yeah, really.
Big three issues impacting Black people in Seattle remain the same. The massive income gap, gentrification, and the decline in home ownership, which is basically generational wealth, and the education gap. These issues are decades old and entrenched. Let's work. And who knew? Like I said, from out of my Twitter machine, a lot of people really felt that though.
Yeah, because it is true. And I think there's so many people that take this in terms of their lived experience. I mean, look, here we have, 1619, House Bill 1619 passes. It really outlines the ways that when we talk about, particularly in Black communities, the ways that there were certain things set up to ensure that those big three really remain is true. So the idea is that we really do need to be able to focus on other issues outside of police relations, outside of police brutality, that really are targeting so many people that we know, and our families in particular. It's important to keep those things alive. So I'm really happy you tweeted that out. I was able to catch that, you know what I'm saying? On my little glimpse, I was able to catch it, but I'm happy that you spoke out about it, because you're absolutely right. And especially right now, as that year is coming to, we're coming up on that year. That's really what it's about, is that, we can't forget those things, man.
Yeah, it's funny too, because a lot of people clearly who don't follow me or whatever, they just assume that I'm like, I want government to solve all the problems. Oh, how's government supposed to fix gentrification, and how's government? And I'm like, most people know I'm somebody who's really for limited government. Don't want government in my life. Don't want government telling me what to do. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I want government to provide services and a fair playing ground. That's it. Some people love government. I'm not one of those people. But, the thing is for these things that we talk about, these issues that we face, a lot of those issues is, man, imagine how different it would be if Black people weren't excluded just from jobs. I'm one of those people who came back here really with a wealth of experience and a world of experience. I couldn't get a job here. So when we talk about that income gap, you're right. I'm not looking to the city council,
right,
or to the mayor or to government to solve the problem. But I am to these multi-billion-dollar corporations who intentionally exclude Black people from hiring them. Like I said, I couldn't get a job. And I'm not the only one. So don't you think that has a direct bearing on the income gap of Black households here in Seattle?
I mean,
when we talk about gentrification, yeah, you're right. I'm not looking for the city council or Governor Inslee or Dow Constantine to halt gentrification. I'm just asking for hipster white people to stop moving into the legacy Black neighborhood because it's hip. That's what's driving the gentrification. And so again, another solution that has nothing to do with government. Some things clearly in dealing with policing, nothing's going to happen because they're a direct arm of the state. The state has to be involved. Some of these other things that we talk about is just like, what can we, the people, do? Even when we talk about the education gap, man, school districts, $1 billion school districts, a whole nother story. But let me just tell you this. Some of the poorest PTSAs are there in South Seattle. So, man, all these people, we've raised mutual aid. We've raised money for this, money for that. Man, how about we take that same diligence and see, like, man, how can we boost the PTSA funding from Rainier Beach? You know what I'm saying? For Garfield High School, for Franklin High School, because we've shown we've done it. During the Seattle protests, man, everybody's raising money. Now let's make education important for us. How do we? And that's not, now again, I'm not looking for government to do anything. I'm looking for we, the people. They always say no one's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. And believe me, if anybody, let me get this camera right here. If anybody is out there waiting for government to save you, you might as well kiss your goodbye, because, man, it's not happening.
No, it's not happening. This is exactly, I mean, this is my kind of talk right here. Y'all know I'm going to come from a community perspective. And for me, it is about elevating community rooted solutions. Look, if everything was already given to us, it was already set up for us to win, then you wouldn't even see certain community groups, organizations, change makers, individuals even popping up. The point of the matter is that they've been filling voids that exist in all of these things, because we can't expect anybody that is outside of our lived experience to do the work for us. But what O is saying is right. When you actually educate yourself as a citizen, wherever you are, when you educate yourself and understand what you can do to make it better, just in your actions, in your moves, in the ways that you set up things for your children to be able to understand how they see themselves as an adult, as a part of society, and really bringing about the betterment of your locale wherever you are. That to me is what I'm talking about when I say see yourself as part of the solution. It takes all of us. You know what I mean? Shout out to, I got to give a shout out, because there's a guy named Shoddy out there who said, look, he came here for an Amazon job. He didn't know anything about the gentrification. He just moved into a building that was close to work and made it easy for his commute. And when he began to understand these elevated efforts of gentrification from for-profit developers and others, as Omari said, hipsters taking a rundown home and saying, well, this is a great investment for us. We can do this, and we can inject funds here, not understanding the fabric of the neighborhood and the fabric of the community. When he learned those things, what did he do? He said, I had to move out of that building. I didn't want to be a participant in furthering these gentrification efforts. When more of you that are out there that are pushing for these things, when you guys wake up to that understanding that it's also on you, that you have an opportunity to do something different, to change the trajectory of the neighborhood, community that you're in, everything you do is impactful. And that right there is a way to see yourself as a part of the solution. We all got to do it. Oh,
Yeah, I mean it's real deal, and I keep seeing it. We're looking in the comments, and people are like, yeah, hire more black people. Like I said, that's not government, and that's real deal. And I mean, I get this one, and so here's what I'm gonna tell you is this, man, because I know what it is, man, and how much people don't believe in the brilliance in our community off jump. And that's why it's like a lot of times, man, we don't get these jobs. People don't hire us because there's so many people who don't believe. Like, man, you should see how many people hit my mom up. Well, your son said that he's been to 60 countries and this and that and blah, blah, blah and everything else. And he did TV over here and radio. And they be calling my mama like fact checking me. You know what I'm saying? They're like, man, is that real? Or is, I know he's on TV, so he might just be whatever. It's because it's deep seated. It's deep seated in the fact that it's like, man, it's difficult to believe in the greatness that, you know what I'm saying, within our neighborhood, within our people and whatever. It's an issue we got to work at. My bigger point, though, is this, is that when I say that we have this big three here to overcome, I have no expectation. Like I said, issues with the police. The police is part of the state. The state has to be involved in the solution. You don't get any solution without the state being involved. And we've seen time and time again that the people who are part of the state and government and everything else, they've just used laws and policies against us. So I don't know how it will really go for them to save us. But, this is a broader discussion amongst we, the people, in business and stakeholders here in, across the city. If we want to address these big three, we got to look to these solutions ourselves.
Yeah. And I think what you said is so true. We also have to erase those ideologies that may be really rooted in, anti-blackness and racism and, oppression, sometimes in white supremacy, white privilege. You really do have to check yourself with that as well. For anybody who would maybe your situation, your circumstances as you were raised or whatever is deeply in bed. And so as you become a CEO of a Fortune 500 company and you have these opportunities, what can you do to change the trajectory? So much of it is about checking those ideologies, man.
Yeah, now a few more things. I know we went along there, but this is the thing. This is the arrogance of people in the city, and it doesn't just impact me. It's all journalists, you know what I'm saying? But people just assume, because like I said on that tweet, I'm like, yeah, these are the things we need to work on. Oh, you see, you want government to fix it? Nah, man, really, I want government away from me. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool. I really don't want government involved in much in my life, to be honest with you. Quick shout out real quick here. Remember we did a segment about Amtrak not too long ago, and they celebrated their 50-year anniversary. Go ahead and put this up here. I'm really excited about this. Amtrak restores service on routes following COVID cutbacks. This is really good news for people coming out of Seattle, because the Empire Builder, I used to catch the Empire Builder when I was a kid. Empire Builder goes from Seattle to Chicago, and it's such an amazing route. And, Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, and then down in Chicago, and the Coast Starlight, which is also a very excellent route, goes from Seattle down to, I believe, San Diego, all the way down the Pacific Ocean. These services are being restored by Amtrak, so it's really good news.
It really is. And I think that, as we talked about it before when we did the Amtrak piece, find a way to, take a trip, utilize their 50th, year discounts to get yourself out there, right?
This discount over.
Yeah.
They said this was our birthday week. You better get this ticket now or not at all. The discount's over, but I mean, the fares are still great.
Yeah, they are. And I was just looking at some the other day because, again, as we were talking about, it just reminded me of my childhood, right? Where I was like, oh man, I really did appreciate those routes.
Something about a train, that's magic.
Love it, man, love it.
All right, I got one more thing. We're running a little late here. We got a port commissioner in the building. So, we don't want to have the port commissioner waiting too long. But it's an important story here. And you talked about the author of the 1619 Project and this whole tenure issue down there at UNC Chapel Hill. Let's go ahead and play this clip.
Students, faculty, and alumni at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill are speaking out in defense of New York Times Magazine journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones. UNC Journalist School announced that Hannah-Jones, who won the Pulitzer Prize for her work on the 1619 Project for the New York Times Magazine, will join the faculty in July. But the university's Board of Trustees has not approved her application for tenure. Previous professors in the same role were offered tenure when they accepted the position. Ed O'Keefe has more on the controversy and the 1619 Project.
I'm saying that history is history, and we have to tell the truth.
Journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones appeared on CBS This Morning back in August 2019 as the New York Times Magazine launched the 1619 Project, an ongoing series the magazine says aims to reframe the country's history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of our national narrative. The project marked the 400th anniversary of slavery in America.
We don't know about 1619 the same way that we don't learn very much about slavery. It is shameful. No one wants to talk about their sins or the worst moments.
Materials from the project have been developed into lesson plans to use in schools, but some Republican leaders are trying to block its use in public education.
This project rewrites American history to teach our children that we were founded on the principle of oppression, not freedom.
GOP lawmakers in 5 states have introduced bills to cut funding to schools and universities that use the project.
We just want our kids to have the real history of America, to be proud of America and our beginnings, and make sure that they have the facts.
In response to criticism about the project's focus, the Times issued a clarification last year to its opening essay by Hannah-Jones, noting that protecting slavery was a reason some of the colonists fought the American Revolution, but not all of them. Hannah-Jones stands by the project, calling it patriotic to consider how slavery shaped the country's origins and continues to affect Black Americans today. For CBS This Morning, Ed O'Keefe, Washington.
I mean, here we are. We talk about it all the time, that we do have to reconcile with the truth. And when we do that, we actually will become that America, the great nation that we are deeming ourselves to be, that we say all the time. I agree 100% with Hannah there. We need to be able to speak the truth. When people want to have their blinders up about what is truth and what is not, it's not objective. There's actual facts out there that really showcase how America became so wealthy. And it wasn't in the guise or the disguise of what you want to believe in terms of, just purely about innovation. It was built on free labor. For all of you that don't understand that, please wake up to that truth. Jeez.
Yeah,
I just want to live, man.
There's a lot of power and strength in legacy, and whether that legacy is true or false, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of the best thing we can ever do, and we say it right here in Seattle and applies for the whole nation, is just tell the whole story. You know, can you imagine in all aspects here, you know, tell the whole story. How can we move on? Even when we talk about the Seattle protests, we don't know who gave an order for this. We don't know who, man, just tell the truth. Because we're never able to really resolve and heal. And other people, you know, on the other side of issues, they move on. So from the small things to the big things. And it's not just the 16, 19 people, because we see they're like in certain states, lawmakers are trying to ban curriculum and everything else. For over 140 years, people have tried to write other people out of history, even right here in Seattle. When we talk about the liberal, whatever, you know what I'm saying? These guys, they're what they're doing, they're clearly more aggressive and robust. But, you know, Black people and Asian people and Native American people have been written out of history in textbooks right here in the Pacific Northwest by left-leaning liberals for a long time as well. So, I mean, it's all over. And, you know, people need to tell the truth. The truth is what I want to get to with Port Commissioner Ryan Calkins, who's in the building. We want to know what's going on down there at the port. Said he came prepared. We're going to see. We should have a hand crab. That's your key right there, Mr. Director. So when you hear me say the name, it's like, ooh, let me press the button. We're going to take a short break right now. We come back. We're joined by Port Commissioner Calkins. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury. I'm joined now by Port of Seattle Commissioner Ryan Calkins, right?
Good morning, Omari.
How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm great.
Okay,
really
good.
pleased to be on.
Yeah, thanks for coming down to the studio.
Yeah, you bet. It's really nice to be in person. This is one of my first sort of, you know, we're still socially distant, I guess, but you know, it's good to be able to talk fully maxed off. It's great.
You see the viewers can't see it, but you know, we got the tape on the floor. It's all taped off here, proper distance and everything else. All right, so let me put the formalities to the side. Welcome, glad to have you here and everything else. I'm gonna just be very honest with you, Commissioner, and very sincere. I'm tired of politicians and aspiring politicians, because I'm Black, coming on this show and using this DEI word soup of diversity and equity and inclusion and everything else, and they never get to dollars and cents and strategy and anything else. So I'm real with you right now. If you're not prepared to talk real information about this port, real dollars, real cents, total tonnage, import, export, we might as well wrap this up early and go to commercial break.
I'm ready to go. It was really refreshing to hear that we get to talk about the port itself, and I don't have to come on with a bunch of prepared talking points that are supposed to make you feel good, but instead we can talk about what a huge, important entity this is for the public. This is a key publicly owned asset for our region, and it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It's really important for all of us, and so I'm excited to talk about the port.
All right. Well, we're going to put you up to it because, like I said,
Good.
our audience wants to be informed and educated and not hit with all this word soup of whatever and smoke screen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're elected. We want to hold you accountable.
Good.
First of all, what's in dollars and cents? How much business? I know COVID impacted some things clearly, and maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way. Man, how much money does this port generate?
So if you think about it in terms of our budget, we're about a $2 billion a year budget. So $1 billion goes to operations, running the existing facilities, about $1 billion for capital budget, which is what are we building or refurbishing each year? And it's really important to think about it that way because, a capital budget, that's going to vacillate in certain times. But right now we're at a real inflection point for the port where we've got a lot of facilities that are 50, 60 years old. They need to be invested in, and we've chosen to invest. That means jobs in construction. It means new opportunities for represented work, union work at our facilities. And I think it's important for folks to know what the port is. It is a publicly owned agency established in 1911. There's 5 elected officials, 5 of us port commissioners elected by all the people in King County. So it doesn't matter if you live in Maple Valley or Carnation or downtown Seattle, you get a vote on every race at the Port Commission. And then we sit at the top of the Port Commission organizational chart. We essentially hired the executive and his leadership team. And then we're in charge of SeaTac Airport, the marine terminals, and then some other properties around the Seattle area that help to support the port ecosystem.
Right. And so in that case, it's almost like a structure, almost kind of like there's the what's the person called then who runs the port? Is that the port director?
Yeah, the person who answers to us, the
Right.
commission, is the executive director.
So the executive director, so the commissioners hire the executive director.
Yeah, it's not like the city where you have a mayor who's
Right.
kind of a co-equal with a council. At the port, there's 5 of us. So we're both sort of like the council and the mayor all together.
It's almost like the school board.
Yeah, a little bit like that, only we're
Where you have the directors and the directors then get the superintendent, and the superintendent's job is to manage the everyday operations.
That's
of the
right.
school
The,
board.
the difference is, and this is something I've shared with my school board director friends, that we have the advantage of being, it's a job where I'm paid to do this. It's part-time.
School
but
board don't get no money, man.
Exactly.
All they get is a stipend.
I always tell them that's the worst job
They
in
got-
Seattle politics.
They got $1 billion budget, and the school board directors get a stipend for 12 months for $4,000. So
It's
I'm glad
terrible.
you're getting paid.
No, and honestly, I feel like they're in the worst of both worlds. They've got huge responsibility, but they don't get paid to do it, and they don't have a staff to support them. We at the commission, we get paid and we have staff so that we can create our own priorities, set our own goals, do our own data gathering. And that way we're not sort of, it allows us to counterbalance against the staff, which, we need to work in the interest of the public.
Mhm. How big is the port in Seattle compared to nationally and even internationally?
So SeaTac Airport is the 8th largest passenger airport in the United States. We are also one of the largest cargo airports in the United States. And it's important to recognize we have cargo planes that come and go, but about half of all the cargo through SeaTac is in the belly of the plane that you're flying in when you fly down to LA or wherever else. And then at the seaport, we're the part of the 4th largest gateway in the United States. So we, 5 years ago, signed an agreement with the Port of Tacoma to do everything together on international cargo. And together, we're the 4th largest after only 3 other ports in the country, Savannah, New York, and LA. So we're big.
Savannah, huh?
Yeah, it's a huge port.
All the times I've been there, I never went down to the port. I wouldn't imagine that port was that big. And, a lot of times people look out and you see these big ships out there and you see these containers and put the curveball on you, man. How many containers come in and how many containers go out in general figure?
Good question. So we're at about 1.5 million what are called TEUs, which is just sort of lingo for containers. It's the 20 equivalent unit containers that you see on the backs of trucks. Tacoma is about the same. So together we're about 3 million containers per year. We're a pretty balanced port. We have almost the same number of containers exporting as we do importing. And that's really important. The state of Washington is a big agricultural state. We also are the port of North Dakota. We're the port
Right.
of Chicago.
Montana,
So in a lot of
all
ways,
that.
if you're buying something from China or you're selling something to China, it's going to come through the port of Seattle.
There you go. And see, these are the kind of things that, man, I want to talk about even more because the Black community, man, we just end up on the consumer side of the port. There's other communities that really understand how ports work. And I only bring that up, in then previously in my career, I was fortunate enough to work with a few different companies, and it was out there in the port of Rotterdam, which is a real big port, especially like for spirits, beer, things like that. Moet Hennessy, Diageo, Heineken, everything's come out of there. I worked in a marketing capacity with Heineken and Moet Hennessy. And you see a lot of stuff that comes out of Rotterdam. You knew it was fake if the origination was from another country. But also, I've been traveling back and forth through Dubai for 15 years, but I lived there for 4 years. And that port in Dubai, really big because a lot of African traders, you fly over to Dubai, you buy all the stuff either for your shop or for other shops that, are a wholesaler. They put it on the boat there in Dubai, and you float it over to the port, maybe in Mombasa, Kenya, or into Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, or Maputo, Mozambique. And so me personally, from the big side to developing countryside, I was seeing how ports generate, the potential to generate revenue and everything else. I'll stop right there and I'll throw it back to you, because you said that this port is very balanced as far as, what comes in and what goes out. What is going out of the state of Washington to the rest of the world, and what are some of the primary countries that it's going to?
So state of Washington, obviously, we're famous for our airplanes, right? Boeing started here. Has
number one exporter in the world.
Yeah. And so as a result, the state of Washington has a huge export surplus, meaning the total value of goods that we export is larger than what we import. But if you take airplanes out of that, all of a sudden we get imbalanced the other way. And so that's a huge part of it. But we're also a major export for agricultural goods. And, it's everything from soy and French fries and corn from the Midwest. All those things are coming through our port. In fact, we're the largest, what's called reefer port, which means refrigerated cargo port.
That reefer.
That reefer.
Grab Brock's eyes got kind of big. Like, what? They're exporting all the weed.
We don't track that, but we might also be the other kind of most prominent.
Definitely.
But so we've got, we're set up to manage a ton of refrigerated cargo, because so much of what we export is agricultural. And it's not just the traditional agriculture you think of, but also other food products like our seafood. We have some of the best seafood in the world, and we're the home port for the Alaska fishing fleet. So those ships, they go up, they fish, they come back, they process it here, freeze it, and then we ship it out to everywhere, basically.
So some of the things that leave this port here are agriculture, from not only from our state, but from the Inland Empire, and then also seafood. Are we exporting anything else? Major
we have
textiles?
Absolutely. We have really high value manufactured goods related to electronics, other parts, and then of course we have wood products that we export as well. So we're still a lumber town in some way.
Right. And so certain industries definitely understand the importance of this port. If you're a farmer, you're keeping an eye out on what's happening over there at the Port of Seattle, what's going on. If you're making finished goods, furniture, definitely. If you're a fisherman, or in that business, then you're keeping an eye there on the port. And so what are some of the top countries? I mean, I'm sure everybody's going to say China, but beyond China, what are some of the other top countries that import into the Port of Seattle?
Meaning that where we receive goods from.
We're receiving goods.
So, absolutely. China's at the top. It's a significant part of it. We're also really prominent with Vietnam and increasing.
What's coming in from Vietnam?
Same kind of commodities. So Vietnam is beginning to outcompete China in manufactured goods. And so their costs are a little bit lower than Chinese. So when Donald Trump was in power, he was creating all sorts of barriers to China. And so some manufacturers moved capacity to Vietnam. We're really trying to reach out to India right now. And not only is India a huge population center, we want to have trade with them, but it's also culturally an area where there's a large population of Indian Americans who, whose families originated from India, and so we're beginning to see that there's an opportunity for collaboration there as well.
Yeah. What about East Africa, especially like Ethiopia, Eritrea? There's a big population that's here that's actually multi-generational. At this point, it looks like everything's all good with Eritrea and Ethiopia. So that means the port in Asmara, it's back open for business, maybe for Ethiopian goods. It's just a big community. The community is here. And I used to be, listen, back in I did it, and hopefully what's it called? the time lapses where someone can charge you with a crime?
Oh, the statute of limitations.
Hopefully statute of limitations now, because this was a long time.
You're going to confess to something on air.
I used to do import export, but you know, like the big thing back in the day, this is small stuff though, is just like the Victoria's Secret body sprays. You wouldn't believe back in the day, you buy them here for $5 and they'd sell. Like David's out there laughing, they'd sell as soon as I landed in Dar es Salaam for like $40-50 a bottle, man. That's how I paid
That's
for
called
the trip.
arbitrage. That's a good, I think that's perfectly legal. I don't know.
I was transshipped. Like, I bet I believe you. I know movie goods. But at one point too, I had a business with my girlfriend at the time, and she was selling like hair and hair products. And we were in Abu Dhabi. And so we would get stuff shipped in from China to Abu Dhabi, and then on the Qatar jet or Emirates jet, go down from Abu Dhabi down to Tanzania, you know, resell, bid, you know what I'm saying? Like international resell. But when you see it, you see people visualizing global trade. You know what I'm saying? Some industries here, people just grew up in global trade and they don't think twice about it. Maybe the average fisherman, they know like, oh, this lobster might end up somewhere. Generationally, as a farmer here in the agricultural business, your dad was a farmer, your grandparents were farmers. You know, you get your potatoes to market, the potatoes end up somewhere else in the world. People here who are in the technology business, and a lot of technology you already know, there's a global marketplace. I think there's a lot of communities here, though, who never really interacted with this port and understand the power and the potential of the port. And so you're talking to people right now in our community who, like I said, are always on the consumer side. They're the people who buy, you know, at once that container lands and it's ended and it's gone to the wholesaler, the middleman, and then finally the retailer is when our community is involved in that. And we're not exporting much either. But maybe you can talk more about, man, what are opportunities at the port, and whether opportunities, you can start with the stuff that all the politicians come in and talk about jobs, so you can do this and that. But what are some of the other opportunities that maybe people in our community aren't looking at?
I think that's a great question, Omar. So when I first started at the Port of Seattle, I had experience as an importer myself. I owned a small business in Georgetown, and we were importing. So I had a little bit of an understanding of what the trade was like. But it became really clear that there were a whole host of people who had no idea of the impact of the port and the economic opportunity that the port represented. We employ about 2,000 people at the Port of Seattle, but more important than that, are on the maritime side, there are 60,000 jobs related to maritime in the greater Seattle area. And the average wage is nearing 6 figures at this point. That's great work. And it's really stable and it's future proof, meaning it's not going to get outsourced. It's not going to get automated. These are jobs that are going to stick around. So they are family wage careers. The problem is they're legacy careers. How do people find that job? Their uncle was a fisherman, or their dad was a pilot, or some friend or neighbor knew about opportunities in maritime or aviation. So we started thinking about, how do we connect students? And I was talking to a good friend in education, and she said to me, if kids can't see it, they can't be it. And so we need to get out in front of kids early. We got to get them awareness building in elementary school. We got to get them hands-on in middle school, and we got to get them really solid training in high school, so that by the time they graduate, they have a choice. They can say, I want to go into maritime or aviation. I want to be a pilot. I want to be a longshore worker. I want to be a fisherman. I want to be a naval architect, or whatever it might be. But if you don't even know that those are available, you're never going to pursue that. And so the big project that I undertook 2 years ago was to start a maritime high school. I saw that we had great opportunities for field trips, like going down to the aquarium, starting to get a sense of that. But there was this gap between middle school and college or post high school, where we weren't doing a whole lot of career awareness building and education. And so this fall, we're going to start a maritime high school in South Seattle, working with Highland Public Schools, similar to Aviation High School, but with a maritime focus. And the goal is to get kids ready for the trades, 2-year and 4-year education after high school, so they can go right into these maritime careers.
Man, that's nice.
It is.
You know, I mean, it's interesting too to hear you say that, and it's interesting to hear the intentionality of it, because it's like, you know, on the flip side, where I was a part of a program there in the Central District, is that it's something similar where our kids who do, you know, go on to college, they're usually getting like, you know, outdated advice. Get a criminal justice degree, get a teaching degree. You can't live on that here in Seattle. And so the thing is exposing young people early on to these career paths that they actually earn a wage and they graduate, they could afford to come back and live in Seattle, buy their mama a house or something. Because, you know, a lot of times the career trajectory that our kids are, and a lot of times they're taking that trajectory because that's easily what's in front of them, what their uncle told them to do, this is a good idea or whatever, and they're not being exposed to these areas of where, you know what I'm saying, it's good, stable jobs and incomes. So, you know, we're going to be following up with you on this.
Good.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
and I let me just put it out there. If you're in 8th grade right now, or you have an 8th grade child or niece or nephew who's interested in this, we still have a few spots open for the inaugural class in Maritime High School. Each year we're going to add new. So this year we're starting with about 50 spots. Next year it'll move up to about 100 spots. We're going to have it's a full comprehensive high school, about 100 students per year. And it is going to be a better high school experience because we're not just getting the standard funding for it. We're going out and we're saying to everybody who's looking for workers, you ought to be helping to train the next generation. So we're going to the Washington State ferries. We're going to the shipyards. We're going to the electrical engineers and everybody involved in maritime and saying, we want you to chip in and make sure that these kids are getting a up-to-date education on what you need to do to be a maritime worker, whether you're going to go straight into a union apprenticeship program or you're going to go to MIT to become an engineer. This is going to be a premier education for those kids. So think about every time you see one of those ferries, the workers on those ferries are making great wages. But how do you even start to become a ferry worker? Do you know anybody who can tell you that?
Yeah, and I will say this: they've come a little ways. I won't say long ways, but yeah, believe me, Black people try to get in on the ferries, you know, through the direct route, and they were locked out of it. But I get what you're saying, that it's like a lot of these jobs and industries are very locked in, you know.
So what if we caught a kid at 14, 15 years old,
right,
so that by the time they graduate from high school, they already have the certifications they need to start that apprenticeship program? It'd be a huge head start.
Yeah, that also opens them up though too. A lot of those certifications, man, yeah, it's here for Seattle, Washington State. A lot of them are international as
Absolutely.
well. Yep. And so it opens you up to really be, you know, working in international space. Excuse me, man. We've this has been a good conversation. And hopefully, let me check in the comments here. Well, nobody's telling me to kick you off yet, so that means you haven't offended anybody. But not, I think that I mean, really, this is what I want to do for my community. Is the best thing that I can do for my community with this platform is educate them. You know what I'm saying? And I know your commissioners are up. There's elections coming and all this kind of stuff. I'm not telling them who to vote. That's not my job. But my job is to be able to put commissioners like yourself and people running for office in a position, man, to speak in an educated manner to the audience. And man, I really appreciate the fact that you didn't come in here, like I said, with this DEI words soup and smoke screen for my viewers and talk about, you know, kumbaya and hug it out. Man, we got to keep things on topic. We got to talk about the dollars and the cents and policy discussion. And unfortunately, in this city, no one has policy discussions anymore. It's just hyperbolic name calling and finger pointing. And people get away from the actual policy. People get away from all of these kind of things that are actually important that our viewers could benefit. Two things. I want to have all these people are having these forums for City Hall and mayor, and they want conversion to get involved. I don't know about that, but I definitely want a port forum. Because when I go to my neighborhood
name the time and place. I'd love to be there.
So many people are like, I didn't know about the port. I didn't know about the port. And so yeah, there's my question. You're in?
I'm in.
Put a forum together?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll do that. And before we let you go ahead, look at that camera right there. You can tell people how they can keep up with you, what you're doing, everything else.
For sure. So you can go onto my website at ryanforport.com. As Omari mentioned, 3 of us are up for re-election this year. I'd love your support for that re-election campaign. This is a job that I truly love. And, you know, as Omari mentioned, this role is not just about talking points. It's really about making sure that one of our most important public assets, the port, both the airport, the seaport, is functioning for our public. We want to make sure that you have a clean, safe, and stress-free experience when you go to SeaTac. And we also want to make sure that when you're expecting food on your table or packages on your doorstep that are coming through the Port of Seattle, that they get there in a timely manner. So I think it's critically important. We don't spend a lot of time talking about it in public, but absolutely. So I'd love your support. RyanForPort.com.
All right, Commissioner.
Thank you, Omari. This was fun. Please have me on again. I'd love to keep talking port stuff.
Yeah, no, man, hey, believe me, because in some of my port stories I can't even say on air. So maybe someone actually might come looking for me. Thanks again for joining us. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, Bay Holiday returns to the set. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Public Health, Seattle, King County, Zero Youth Detention, along with our partners from across the South King County region, are committed to reducing violence and creating the conditions needed for our neighborhoods to be safe and free of crime. Too often, the response to crime and violence has been a piecemeal approach with a program here and a program there. When family units collapse, schools fail to educate, the economy fails to produce jobs, and crime rises, we've looked to law enforcement and punitive measures to save us. Nothing could be more wrong or further from the truth. Law enforcement can't shoulder all the burden or take the rest of us off the hook. We are acknowledging the lived experiences of Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. We are centering community as the experts who can effectively identify key issues related to systems, policies, and practices that impact children, families, and communities of color across this region. Those most impacted by the issues will help call out and identify the root causes, including structural and systemic factors. 150 residents will partner with King County to develop strategies, solutions, and an action plan that explicitly addresses system changes needed and eliminates barriers to access for Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks. These residents will also identify the criteria used to measure our collective success. Simply put, we need your help as we do the work needed to make King County the safest in this country. It will take specific commitments from all of us, community members, our young people, elders, and leaders from the sectors all across this region. Together, we will get this work done. Please click the link below and sign up for a work group. Or you can recommend a co-facilitator from community for each work group. We look forward to hearing your ideas, concerns, feedback, and solutions as we build a community where all our children can be happy, healthy, hopeful, safe, and thriving.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday. And boy, oh boy, you know, Big O had the fella right here in the hot seat, man. He came prepared, was ready to answer and ready to showcase what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what it should be, though. And, you know, I mean, we need to, us here at Converge, and really the rest of the media, but especially us, Black media, everything else. Hey, man, we need to tell these electeds and aspiring electeds, cut the crap. We're tired of your, we just want more inclusion and equity and this. And, man, how does that equate to dollars and cents? What's the actual policy change? If you can't come here and speak clearly and specifically on things, don't come at all. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, I think the days are just done over here of giving space to people who are just using. And the thing is, it's a whole big article and study talk about how people who are actually against a lot of things that we be talking about have mastered the language. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They've mastered the DEI vernacular and actually even use it against you. So, man, if you can't come on here and talk specific policy and dollars and cents and strategy and everything else, I mean, you're getting less and less and less airtime over here on Converge.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about really addressing what performative actions really look like, it is about being very specific. And so often, we've heard, and this is why people don't trust politicians in general, folks that are running for elected positions, because they do a lot of the posturing, right? It's all of this kind of overarching language with no real meat on the bones. And then people people get inspired by that overarching language, like, oh man, you know, they're saying the right things, using the right terms. And what O said is true. Oftentimes when they listen to community, what they're doing is they're taking notes about how to redirect that language and then still do whatever it is their entire intention was in the first place. So yeah, enough of it is enough, man, at this point.
It's like, man, you know, it's hashtag cut the crap.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I'm with it.
It's like, you know, people talked about one of the biggest things. I was thinking about this last night, 1 year, George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? After this, it's been 1 whole year, man, your time is up for these people, like I said, with they DEI word soup out here and everything else, man. Come on, man. We tired as a community. Get to the point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Get to the point. If you ain't got a point, shut up.
You know, I just love that you're even mentioning this. It really reminds me of my time in corporate America. And when they were, you know, coming out, this is at the beginning of diversity and inclusion. Equity wasn't even in there yet. So it was just diversity and inclusion. You know, we need diversity and inclusion department. We need, you know, some of our employees of color to lead this effort. And the truth of the matter was so much of it was, you know, honestly, surface level. You know, when we start getting down into the brass tacks about how we're really going to have, at that time, diversity and inclusion, what we were talking about, real pathways. And, you know, another thing I got to say too is that we have to be specific. You know, it goes back to like the term BIPOC. When you're like, well, yeah, our diversity and inclusion initiative is to ensure that there's pathways for women to become, you know, executive level employees. That's great. But oftentimes it's more white women than you're bringing women that are look like me, women that are Latina, women that are Asian, women that are indigenous, that you're elevating them to those levels. So I would always push back on this, because I'm like, you can't just say that we have a pathway for all women and think that's how we're going to do it. That's how we're doing inclusion. You know, it was like, man, enough with the performance.
Granny Sir Curtis, I have something very important to say. Cut the crap. Real deal. Speaking of no crap allowed, we expect a straightforward conversation tomorrow, because that's usually what we always get from King County Council Member Girmay Zahalai. King County Council Member Zahalai will be here tomorrow. You remember last week it was for Feel Good Friday, but you know, we had brought up the article he wrote in the Seattle Times. It said that COVID-19 had created a blueprint or a template of how to handle, you know, treating gun violence as a public health crisis. So he's going to be here tomorrow to talk about that. And also we're going to ask Council Member Zahalai for a report card. Got an elected official on here. We ask him, man, what's going on? You know, we've been following quite a few things. He asked for this $30 million, $2 million for violence. But even beyond that, if the money is out or not out, and if it is out, is the work being done? So the council member will be here tomorrow.
Hey, we're going to have to share that space, man, because I got questions for my brother out there, man. The truth of the matter is what I love is when, you know, you can actually see the work of these elected officials in your neighborhood, in your community. You can actually feel them doing what they said they were going to do on the campaign trail. So I'm excited he'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
As they say, free Skyway. All right, we got a short clip here. We're playing the full episode tomorrow at 2:00 because I believe this forum is at like 4:00 tomorrow. Yeah. But I want you to set it up here real quick. Who we got talking? What are they talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Twitney Vo with the Southeast Peace Coalition. They're going to be having an event. Twitney is going to explain a little bit about some of the details, but really it's these young folks getting candidates for the mayor of Seattle. Those who are vying for the seat, you know, they're really putting their feet to the fire and really asking them a lot of questions about Southeast Seattle in particular. You know, tell the people right now how they can be involved and make sure that they are present for those Southeast Seattle residents out there that want to know more and know how they can log on.
Yeah. So you can join us on Facebook and you can pre-register on the Facebook. You just find out there's a Zoom link to pre-register, or you can watch us live on streaming Facebook. It's going to be May 27th, 4 to 5 p.m. Hope to see you there.
So, yes, we will be airing the entire Chats with Trey episode tomorrow at 2 p.m. as a special airing. Shout out to my producer over there holding it down to make sure that we have these clips for you guys. But honestly, you know, anytime that, you know, we have young people being elevated and their voices being at the center of how to hold these elected officials accountable, I love that forum. I love that it's going to happen. So you guys will be able to see the full episode of Chats with Trey and me sitting down having a good chat with Whitney Vo of Southeast Peace Coalition tomorrow, right here on Converge at 2 p.m.
All right, good stuff. Speaking of holding them accountable, tonight we have a special edition of the Morning Update Show at night, 7:05 p.m. We have a motion graphic for this. It was handcrafted. We have Mariko Lockhart, the director of the Office of Civil Rights, and Andreas Mantia, director of the Office of Neighborhoods, live tonight at 7:05 p.m. It's been all this talk about budgeting. You all know what I mean. And who's going where, and excuse me, you know, it's things going from the Department of Neighborhoods, then going over to Office of Civil Rights. You know me, I just reach out to both of them and be like, let's get both of you guys here on the same time, because it's about our community money. So, you know, like I said, man, we cutting the crap and getting right to it on the dollars and cents. So Director Lockhart, Director Mantia, got both of them tonight, 7 p.m.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I mean, you know, when we only get kind of maybe one perspective, and it really came from, you know, Council Member Morales. So it's going to be great to be able to dive a little deeper with these guys. This money, and to be honest, let me go back. The push for the money was so many voices, so many people, all of those protesters. It really is built on decades of Black organizing and Black liberation. So the truth of the matter is that it's important we understand, because we needed this effort. We needed to do it in a large way. We've seen the money dwindle down, and now it's really time for real transparency. So I love that they're coming on. They're not scared. I love it.
Cut the crap.
I would love it.
No, I mean, come on. Anybody who is a servant of the people shouldn't be scared to address the people.
Period.
And, you know, as directors, Director Mantia, Director Lockhart, these are servants of the people. You know, I mean, it's the wrong business to go into, and especially be a director, if you don't have a willingness to speak to the people. So no, I mean, we're gonna have a good fun time tonight. You know what I'm saying? You know, as usual. And I mean, I just hope, the only advice, if either of you guys are watching, let's not enter the space with the DEI word soup, man. Let's in the smoke screen. Let's just get right to the facts of, man, this is where this is at with PB and blah, 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 and everything else. Let's keep it on the facts, and let's keep it on the outcomes.
Yeah.
We're up against it, Trey Holiday. We're actually overtime. Any last words before we get out of here?
Always find yourself as a part of the solution, guys. There's plenty of ways to do it. You guys can check out different ways. Find yourself as a part of the solution.
That's always good advice. So again, at 7:05, we're getting ready to build the broadcast right now. 7:05 p.m. tonight, we have Director Lockhart from the Office of Civil Rights and Director Mantia from the Department of Neighborhoods. And so we'll get you there on that. But yeah, it's about that time. Want to remind you, go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity. And as for the morning update show, the AM edition at least, we'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the
dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Sing it again now. The victory is won. Victory is won.